Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Very special opportunity today, although we're still practicing safe social distancing during this quarantine. Sitting across, I will say, as a good distance, probably 6 feet, wearing a mask, is Rick Capello is with us. Started out as a touring musician, coming over from Australia to the United States, co-founding the company Dead Horse Branding, where he's also the art director. 3-time New York City Big Book Award winner, 2-time International Design Award winner, Graphic Design USA Magazine's Identity Award winner, Graphic Design USA Magazine's Person to Watch, award-winning celebrity photographer, and the mural artist in Bob Evans' video, Don't You Think It's Time? Rick, welcome to the show.
Wow, that sounds impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole, for writing that.
This is a very unique, interesting time for all of us here. You and I had a conversation before the show. You finally got out of the house and you went and had lunch with one of your clients at a restaurant, and you sat out safely outside and everybody's wearing their masks. Did we ever think we would come to this in this world, that this is now kind of the norm? It's how we're doing business.
This is crazy, and it's an invisible enemy that we're trying to fight. But like everyone says, we need to be in this together and be responsible and help each other out.
We do, and we've got to take it seriously.
Yeah.
So because of the shutdown, it's changed a lot of the dynamics of how we do business. We had a booking agent on the show a few weeks back. We were talking about, when do you think you're going to start seeing things happen again? And he was saying, well, I think by late summer, early fall, we're going to be ready to go. Now we're hearing that festivals up through that time are being canceled or being postponed, being pushed back. We're all kind of looking at 2021 as the reboot. This is a great time, though, in the same instance, if you're a creative person and you're an entrepreneur, to really get out there and do something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. It's a shame that the touring stopped, but it has to. And then moving forward, like, without public confidence, what good's a show? Like, if everyone's social distancing at a show, and a musical show is based on vibe, so the audience isn't going to be vibing out because you've got space everywhere, and it's not the same circumstance. So really, you should be using this time to get your back end in order, get your brand together, get your website together, get all the messaging, maybe record some songs or write some songs by yourself. And I'm not saying record with a team. Get all that back end together so when the time comes, when we're ready to go out, you're set up. You've got a lot of social media presence, because that's the reality of the thing. These days we're driven by social media numbers. It's a good time to be doing that.
You mentioned the word branding yourself. That's something that a lot of artists don't ever consider. They consider their music their brand. And in a way, it is an extension of themselves, but there's a lot of white noise out there these days because a lot of artists are putting out a lot of great music, but a lot of it can sound repetitious or the same. They really need to personalize themselves. And by doing that, they need to create a brand of who they are, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. For example, let's say a young girl's like, I want to be the next Taylor Swift. I was like, well, that ship's already gone, that plane's flown, the ship's gone. We don't need another Taylor Swift. We need another you. What is that you? So I always tell artists that think of it as a Marvel comic book, or the movies. Like, you got Iron Man, you got Batman, you got Superman, you got Wonder Woman. All these people have their own unique powers that stand out. You don't have two Supermans. That's stupid. And then on that side, So you got all these guys, and on the other side you got the bad guys, the Joker, all the bad guys. So same as in the music business, where you got the Taylor Swifts, you got the Billie Eilish, where you got the Donny Osmond, you got Alice Cooper. So there's all these brands. Branding is just your identity. So what's your message? What's your core message? We don't want the same message as Tim McGraw or Carrie Underwood. Give us your own personal message so you can fill in the blanks. And not only that, you need to work out who you are first and foremost. That's the core of it. That's the core. If you are similar to Taylor Swift, that's great. Okay, let's try and steer you a little bit left or a little bit right of that so you're not so in that pocket. But at the end of the day, you need to be true to yourself, because if the craze is these days and the phase is country music is the hottest thing, and you're really not a country music artist, but you steer yourself in that direction, 3 or 4 years' time, we're in rock or something else, then why did you change yourself? Be true to yourself and then veer left or right with your brand as necessary.
That is a very valid point. I remember back in the 90s when I was working with Leanne Rimes, who was one of the hottest country artists of all time, multi-platinum recording artist, selling out tours everywhere. And then she came out with a pop album called Twisted Angel, which was actually her worst selling project at that point. And country radio, for lack of better terms, just kind of dropped her. They said, well, this is the direction you're going. Taylor Swift did the same thing. Now, she had, I believe, a lot more success transitioning from a country artist to a pop artist, maybe because the swing was much farther into that genre of music. But I agree. I think in the very beginning, you need to be true to yourself, because if you can't be true to yourself, you can't be true to your fans.
Exactly.
The branding, the trademark, that all kind of has to, you have to figure out what that is, but I guess maybe you need to figure out who you are and then create that brand so it becomes a self-identifier.
Yeah, and you're right. The difference between Taylor Swift and Liam Rimes is the internet. It was a lot more broader now during Taylor Swift's process. And I mean, she literally learned how to sing in front of the people. Given her success and all that, she's amazing, but she wasn't a great singer at the time. She's pulling off some good stuff now. I never really viewed her as country anyway. And, you know, you say that to like a Reba McEntire back in the day. The same. It's not really, but that's how it's been. The lines have been blurred that much that, okay, it's considered country, but you're right. It's not as far as a swing, because we are where we are right now, where the lines are sort of blurring into each other. Yeah, it's super important that you find out who you are and pick your lane and then build on that.
What is that process? I mean, you've got to create this and build it and get it established. Where do you start? You know, I'm a first-time singer-songwriter. I've recorded my first few songs. I'm ready to go do something with it. Now I want to build my brand. What is point A?
It depends on where the artist is at. And we work with people that are very established, and we work with people that are just starting out. So it depends where you are at the scale of things. But first and foremost, if you haven't got much, if you're new and upcoming and you're not really know who your voice is yet and all that sort of stuff, we just pull apart all the fundamentals. Who do you aspire to be? Who are you? What does your sound look like? And then start piecing those together. And it's a slow dance, because let's say these moving parts are all floating around, and you've got to sort of thread them together and bring them in tight. And sometimes like, we went a little tight. We need to loosen up this side. Oh, the photography is a little bit out. That's not true to the core message. We got to do this. And the songs now, they don't represent what the photography looks like or the website looks like, the messaging. So it is a slow dance. And we find it hardest with artists that don't have a lot of assets, where they don't have a voice. They got ability, but they don't have the voice. It's like, well, you just sound like Carrie Underwood, or you sound like Tim McGraw, or you know, I can see where you're going, but it's not, you're not aiming anywhere. So it's a moving target. They might go, well, I do this sort of polka jazz fusion of rock. I was like, okay, well, how are we going to sell that? Where in the world are we going to sell that sound? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of moving parts, but again, starting with the core, what do you like? What do you do? And these days I pull out, I'll give you an example. As an artist we had a little bit of success with before she moved on. She was this tom girl that loved cars, race cars, and she knew everything about cars and all this sort of stuff. And she just loved it. And I said, well, we need to build that in your brand. I don't want to give away too much, but she was Asian as well, trying to be a country act. So I'm going, no offense to the climate we're in, but how many Asian country artists do you see? No, but I could be the first. Well, you could be, but do you really want to be pushing shit uphill like super hard when you could be taking, you know, the low-hanging fruit first and then going for it? So we put together her brand and it looks solid. And what happened was she was getting radio interviews, she was getting gigs, she was on the cover of magazines before she even released a song. So there's several different ways of doing things. So, you know, with everyone, it's about perception these days. How many likes do you have? How many friends do you have? All this sort of stuff. But when you start uncovering all that, where's the true identity? And you really got to believe in that brand. So she believed that she loved cars and she was into it. And she did. She knew all about it. So it worked for her.
You brought up something that I want to touch on briefly. Magazines. Print. Is that still something, whether it's the physical version or it's now digital that we look at on our smartphones or our tablets, is that, I'm going to say print, digital media, whatever, the written word, let's say that, is the written word still a viable opportunity to get yourself established?
Of course it is. And, you know, with the internet, things get watered down a little bit, but still, if it's coming from a reputable source, then you're good. And this is more of a Nicole, Melissa, Sam question. But yes, it is important because it's same as recording an album these days. Back in the old days, a record company would say, I'm going to invest $500,000 into you because I believe in you and we're going to record this album. Nowadays, it's like, I'm just going to record an album because I think I'm good in my bedroom. Back in those days, someone had to say that you were good to be able to do the album. Nowadays, it's like, I think I'm good, I'm just going to do an album. So there's a credibility and you're held to a high standard when people write about you, especially if it's a reputable magazine or a TV spot or something like that. So it does help.
With that being said, is that something the artist can do on their own, by themselves, or do they really need to bring in someone like a Dead Horse Branding to help get them established?
I mean, I would say it's easy with us, of course.
Because you already have the relationships.
We have relationships, and it's credibility too. And the other thing is, one is relationships, but two is if there's an artist at home that wants to do it by themselves, they can. I'm sure they might have a friend at a local newspaper or something. They could get something happening, but the other thing is when you're dealing with TV or magazines, they want to be dealing with a reputable, someone they can trust that they're going to deliver the story on time. Is it credible? All that sort of stuff. So it is easier if you come to someone like us or a PR company.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for our sponsor, and come back. We're going to have some more conversation at a safe social distancing with Rick Capello here with Dead Horse Branding.
Hey everyone, this is Jack Sharkey. I'm the Marketing and Technical Communications Manager at KEF, and you're listening to the Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
Hi, this is Tom Sabella, the creator, founder, and co-producer of the Business Side of Music podcast. It's loyal listeners such as yourself that make our podcast successful. Take the time to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Not only does it contain information on upcoming podcast episodes, but also informative tidbits on the music industry and even bonus items that we give away. All you have to do is sign up at businesssideofmusic.com and we will send you Larry Butler's new singer-songwriter rulebook. That's it. All you have to do is go to businesssideofmusic.com, sign up, and we will send you Larry Butler's new book. Thanks to all our loyal listeners. We love you.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Rick Caballo is sitting across the 6-foot table from us.
I'm about 5.5 feet,
Wow.
I think.
There you go.
But
Now
I'm wearing a
everybody
mask, and you've got this kick-ass mustache, so I think we're covered.
We're safe. Thank you. With an increased focus in e-commerce these days, because this is really interesting. I just saw an article last night where Amazon is finally getting their ducks in a row when it comes to regards to shipping. They were kind of caught off guard when this first happened. Walmart and Target actually increased their online presence exponentially, and Amazon was a little bit slow to the start. They're now where they want to be. They're getting products shipped out in a few days, but e-commerce has now become, God, I hate using this word, but it has become the new norm for us when we're going to do business.
Yep.
You know, my wife and I, we just ordered an umbrella and a stand for our patio, and instead of running down to the local Old Time Pottery, we ordered it through Amazon, and it was here in a couple days. A website, you really have to have an attractive online presence, because once again, I'm going to jump back to what I said. There's a lot of white noise out there, and you have to filter through it. That online presence is essential. And how do you break through? I mean, what is there a magic button that you push, or what is it that you need to be able to create?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, I don't know about that article about Amazon. Is that 3 years ago? Is it now?
Oh, it just came out, I believe.
Really? See,
I think it came out. I think I read it yesterday.
I can't believe that they're having problems right now when they've got robots and all sorts of stuff going around their factories and that.
I think it was a supply chain issue is what it was coming down to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bringing it to the music side and using Amazon as an example is that they monopolize the market. I read somewhere where they started their own diaper line to shut down the opposition. They were going 50% under profit, under cost, just to shut the other business down so they could do it. So they're monopolizing the market, which makes it harder for other companies to get the noise through, just like you say. So musically, yes, it's credibility. If you go to someone's website and it looks like it was done in 1990 on an HTML platform and it hasn't been updated, or it looks crappy, or the photos from 100 years ago, it's a credibility piece. So people are going to go, I don't know, because that's the face. These days, that's what you're looking at. You get on the phone, let me check you out. You go on Google and check it out. And some of the biggest problems too is that you don't have a website, because what happens then is that, and this has happened with some big time celebrity people that we've worked with, they didn't have a web presence. So what happens is you Google it and go, okay, a bit of information here, a little bit of information there. Oh, they got sent to jail. Oh, and then you make up your own mind who this person is. Whereas if you curate your own website, you put all the best pieces you want in there, and you steer the conversation.
Yeah, and you control the dynamics of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got this beautiful, let's say it's a beautiful boat that you've polished up and it's sitting in the middle of the ocean now. So how are you going to see it? You spent money on a website. It's cost you 10 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is, 5 grand. No one can see it. How do you get it seen amongst the Kerry Underwoods and all the big acts that are getting, a lot of traction? And Google's, pushing up all the ones that are paying money. So there's a lot of different ways through SEO, search engine optimization, PR, marketing, your social media, steering everyone to your website. And we stress that everyone has a website, because let's take it back to everyone's on social media now and thinks Instagram's the bomb and whatever, but let's go back to MySpace. Everyone was on MySpace. They were invested. They put all their stuff on there, their music, their photos. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, sorry, Facebook, goodbye, MySpace. And all that investment you put into somebody else's platform is gone. So you might as well put it into your platform and share it out to those other social platforms. And not only does that help steer people back to your home, but also it creates search engine optimization where Google starts going, what's going on here? There seems to be some legit thing back and forth, and they move you up in the rankings.
Does it make sense to still have that Facebook page and use that to drive to your website?
Of course, because that's where you're going to get your hooks, and you steer them over and drive the conversation. And I do recommend on everyone's website that they have a blog page, because that creates great SEO. And Google recognizes that.
And what kind of a page is that again?
Like a blog page where it's stories.
Oh, okay, a blog page. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Within your website, a news page, just to keep those stories going, and it sends out all these feeds and people start sharing it, and then Google recognizes and goes, oh, okay.
How often should you be blogging? Should you put something new out there? I know with podcasts, we try to really get a new episode out every week. During the pandemic, it's been a little more challenging because it's lining up guests either by phone or doing what you and I are doing. But you want to have consistency there. I would think so with blogs. You want to get something out. First of all, you don't want to just to put something out there that's just crap, that's junk. You want to put something out that's meaningful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least once a week, be consistent, like you say, and then fill in the gaps within the Instagram and social Facebooks and all that sort of stuff. And don't do the same content. Come to my website to get different content. That's why I'm going there. You need to provide them with a different hook to come over. Otherwise, they just won't go over. You might do a live video on your website and not on social media. So they have to go from social media over to your website. But if you can get them over to your website, then you can capture their email. You can capture some heat maps of where's everyone looking, You can do that on Instagram too, but again, at the end of the day, when Instagram becomes the thing of the past, then you've lost it all. Contain it all in your own control.
That's something else you brought up that's very important, and it's those heat maps, knowing where, especially if you are an artist and you're trying to sell something. If you're not creating any kind of an environment in, say, London, England, but you are in Sydney, Australia, then that's a good place to start and at least maintain some order. That's not to ignore London or ignore other markets where you're not getting something, but like you said, pushing shit uphill.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do things if you know you've got a foothold somewhere instead of trying to create that foothold. Having that information come into your website and turning that into knowledge really helps you push to that next level.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is when we manage our clients' websites, we look at those heat maps, we look at the statistics, we look at what page they came in on. So we can really dial down where these people are coming and why they're interested in coming over. So for example, if you did a blog story and people entered in through, URL/blog, they came from that story. Or if they came in from your URL.com, your name.com, they came in through to see you direct. And what happens is we look at those heat maps, we look at the phones they're using, we look at the locations, we can dial it down to almost a street where they're living at. And then we start to correlate that information with Instagram, with Facebook, and say, what's going on here? Why did we get a spike on Wednesday? What happened on Wednesday? Oh, you went over to Instagram? Okay, you did a live performance on Instagram. Okay, I get it. Let's do more of that. Why have we got a cluster of people in Stockholm, Sweden? Why is that? And then once you get that information, it's like you said, you want to build a raging fire. You build that fire, and you work that fire in Sweden because that's where it's happening. You work it. And then from there, you can transplant those hot coals somewhere else. And usually we do them in a distance that's not too far away, and eventually they link together. And then you got a massive raging fire. And then you take those hot coals and you keep moving them around and you keep building. But yeah, statistics, I get off on that, especially when I'm designing for people. I want to know, who are we selling to? What's the demographic? Because if you've got a crowd of, like you said, in London or in Sydney, a million people, then you go to your agent and say, look, I've got 1 million people in Sydney, Australia that want to see me. Let's get a show happening. Rather than just go, I want to go to Sydney, or how many people are going to see? I don't know. My
former boss at one of the record labels always told me, he said, a number one in Aruba is still a number one. And I got what he meant by that is, look, if we're doing well there, let's focus and let's build around that. If you're not doing good in Des Moines, Iowa, don't necessarily spend the time. It's a tough hoe to row because we're such a big world and we're global now because everything is online, everything is digital. You can see it through websites and social media. But you should really, as you said, you should build your hot spots and then set the coals.
But that's a good example of marketing. Okay, so our number one in Aruba is probably, 6,000 albums or whatever it is, or a gold or whatever,
yeah.
A gold album.
What they would consider, right.
That they would consider. So it's great publicity. It's like, wow, we're number one in Peru. So, oh, wow, they got a gold album in Peru. And then that becomes good presence and a good credibility piece to be able to do some marketing on and some PR and go, wow. And then you got eyes on people all of a sudden.
We're going to take another break. get another word in for another one of our sponsors. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Baha Men. It's, I understand, one of your clients. And if you remember Dancing in the Moonlight and Who Let the Dogs Out, you'll know who they are. In the studio with us today, Rick Capello.
Hello, this is Michael Elsner with Master Music Licensing, and you're listening to another edition of The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site. Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Back in the studio, Rick Caballo with Dead Horse Branding, co-founder and the art director for the company, is with us. A lot of history here with your company, and we've had, Tony Brown, the Grammy Award-winning producer, on the show. We've had Mark Jordan. We've had several of your clients on the show, so it's good to finally get, the leader of this to be on the podcast. When Nicole sent me, some talking points to go over, she mentioned Baha Men, that you were really rebranding them or branding them in a new direction. And I honestly, I got to tell you, I had to spend a few minutes to kind of remember who Baha Men were. I remember Dancing in the Moonlight, and in spite of everything, I don't really remember Who Let the Dogs Out, except I heard everybody, doing it at wedding receptions and whatever. But then I started researching them, finding out that they're a reggae fusion band, which I like. I think that's cool. And then I saw that they were a Junkanoo band, and I had to check that out. Okay, what's a Junkanoo band? And found out it's more kind of a not necessarily a lifestyle, but it's based around parades and a lot of drums and I thought, okay, what is it that you can do with Baha Men that's what's going to happen there?
I mean, first of all, when we work with our clients, it's amazing to be working with like a Tony Brown or a Mark Jordan, because they've got so much assets to be able to draw from. The story writes itself.
Yeah, a lot of history.
Yeah, a lot of history. So in essence, the story's been written. I'm just piecing it together, really. And it's the same with the Baha Men. They're a strange one, because I remember being in Australia 20 years ago and the Who Let the Dogs Come Out, and it was the biggest thing ever. I remember it was like, okay, it's a fun song, a novelty act. You'll never see them again. They had a few little hits after that on Shrek movie and Anyway, fast forward 20 years later after that song, ever since we started working with them a few months ago, last year, 6 months now. Wow, time flies in COVID-19. Every time you turn on TV, that song's on. It's huge in Australia. They got a massive presence in Australia, bigger than the US, just from that one silly song. So that's what I thought they were. I thought they were just a novelty act. Now, after doing all the research and listening to all the new tracks and the single that they got out now, Take a Chance, it's like, wow, these guys are legit musicians that are actually freaking awesome. And the beats, the rhythms, they're great. They're not a novelty act at all. But it's unfortunate that one song broke through and it became this massive hit. Little trivia, Desmond Child owns the publishing on that. He was very smart in picking that up. So anyway, what I wanted to do is showcase, one, they're fun. They're based around a lifestyle in the Bahamas. They're just cool guys with, great music. So I wanted to steer away from the novelty, Who Let the Dogs Out vibe, and made it more about their lifestyle and who they are and the actual successes they had. So they've had a lot of history. So it was easy to piece that together and making sure staying true to their Bahamian roots.
Is this a project that's being pitched to a label now? Do they currently have a label deal?
Yeah, so they're on Sony Latin. I mean, this year was booked out. Unfortunately, with this virus, they've had to stop playing, Being stuck in the Bahamas ain't a bad thing when you think about it.
Yeah, I could think of worse places to be.
But, I mean, I know they've had some issues down there with the virus. They're on a label and it's just a normal rollout to them. But what we wanted to do is bring them more presence, get to know who they are. It's 20 years celebrating, Who Let the Dogs Out.
I think I'm a perfect example of that. You start hearing that, and yes, Who Let the Dogs Out, nice novelty song. They actually won a Grammy for it, which surprised me. But then like I said, you start researching them, and you find out that there's this reggae fusion band that, Junkanoo is kind of, in their wheelhouse, and you start looking into those things, and you look at them from a different perspective. And you go, okay, this might be something that is more than just a novelty act. They've got some depth. What attracts labels to any act these days? I mean, what do you have to do? What pieces do you have to put in place to get that attraction going?
Well, I mean, I can't answer to what the labels do, but I know what we do to prepare them for the label. It's like no label's going to look at you if you've got no social presence. Unless you're freaking amazing and you're a rough piece of coal that they want to invest in to shape that diamond out. So we want to make sure that the brand messaging's correct and straight to the point. Like we spoke about before, if you are a Latin fusion country person, then, what's that market look like? What record label will take you on? Is that who you really are? If so, we'll go down that track. And then in order to attract a label, how far to the left or to the right do we have to swing to attract that label and still be true to your art? Because I remember when I first came out here, it was like, no, this is who I am. I'm more of a rock guy, this, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't straying anywhere, but I should have played the game and been smarter in how I approach things. It's important to get all your assets down, your credibility pieces. So no one wants to jump on something that's standing still. They want to see that you're active. They want to see that you're kicking goals already, because they want to jump on a moving train. Like realistically, the less work they have to do, the better. And I say that with managers too. If the manager's only getting 10%, then you should be doing 90% of the work. Just to have a solid credibility piece online somewhere, like a website, social media, nice and strong, a cohesive message.
Up to date, current.
And just show that you're in for the long run, because the music business is, it's not something, I feel like singing this week and then that's it. No, this is a long game. You got to put the effort into it.
You used the word marathon earlier in the conversation. It is not a sprint. If you're getting into this to be an overnight success, and can't even count how many times we've talked about that, you're in for the long haul. And I think Baha Men's a perfect example. These guys have been around. When I started doing my research, they've been around since the 1970s and didn't really have their first big hit until 94 and then 2000 with Who Let the Dogs Out. That's a marathon in itself right there. Getting the brand out there is, let me back up. Creating the brand is one thing. Getting the brand out there is another thing. But then being sustainable. How does that go about? Is it the continual blogging, updating information, photo shoots? Should you do more than one photo shoot? How creative should you get to be sustainable out there for a long run?
Well, I mean, it all stems back to what we spoke about before, all your demographics, all your statistics, all the numbers. And like you said, work in those areas where you got them heat maps really hot. And just keep active and keep coming up with fresh new stuff. I mean, I don't know what the perfect how many photo shoots is right off the top of my head, because everyone's different. But yeah, you got to keep it fresh and keep it tight. I have an artist out there right now that's doing a single cover. She brought out one single cover, and then the next single cover that she's bringing out, which is too early, premature in my mind, that it's completely different. So there needs to be a commonality between what you're selling and the message, and it's whether it's visual, audio. It doesn't matter. It's like there's got to be a common thread and keep attracting that audience. And then it's like, okay, we've got that audience now. Next year, how do we expand on that audience and get someone else? We're big in the US. I want to be big in Canada. How do we do that? So it's just a matter of looking at your numbers, looking at your stats, and just building upon that.
How can people find your company?
You can go to deadhorsebranding.com. Check us out there. We do everything from PR, marketing, strategic planning, logo design, website design. We also do critical PR, where we help people get out of unsavory situations. We do management as well. So, I mean, we're almost a record label as such, with my knowledge from the music business and Melissa's knowledge in the music business. We really know the steps that it needs to take. And what happens is When you're doing it on your own, it's like, I need a website. So you go get a website. I need some merch. You go over there and get some merch. And then I need this, go over there. And then by the time you pull it all in together, the messaging's wrong. We do everything in-house with our team that's dedicated to each client. So it's been working good for us, and we love it here in Nashville.
Thanks for being on the show.
Likewise, man. Thank you.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
Circumstances tend to bring me down. Things kinda happen and suddenly it's not the same. Somehow I got caught in the power of a thought I can't explain. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding on. House, but I feel like throwing stones. When I look in the mirror, a stranger stares back at me. I look them in the eye and tell another lie I can't believe. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding on. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding, I'm just holding, I'm just holding on. Holding on to something when all hope is gone. Hold on, baby, I'm just holding on. The things I could have done back when I was young haunts me still. When I look behind me, all I see are ghosts. Though I never did find all the dreams I had in mind, I sure came close. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding on. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding on. I know I'm not crazy, but I'm just holding, I'm just holding, I'm just holding on. Baby, I'm just holding on. Holding on to something when all hope is gone. Hold on, baby, I'm just holding on. I'm holding on, hold on. Holding on to something when all hope is gone. Hold on, baby, I'm just holding. Baby, I'm just holding. Baby, I'm just holding on.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.